Welcome to the Spotlight segment. This is a segment dedicated to interviews with developers or interesting happenings in the world of Android. And now for this week's episode, here's your Spotlight.
Let's move on to our Spotlight section. And this week we are going to discuss the Google Pixel 10a, which was launched for pre-orders, I think, on the 18th of February and will be released on the 5th of March. The 10a, obviously the A series has been around for a while. It's the mid-range, released between the main numbered phones, and because we had the 10 last year, we do have the 10a. John, do you want to kick off on this one, and particularly how you think it compares to the 9a, which was last year's variant?
Well, I think it is the 9a in disguise. To be honest, this is the smallest upgrade in history, because what Google's decided to do is, and I mean, I don't blame them, but the problem is, in the past, the A series has had the same processor as all the flagship phones from that same series. So now I guess they've decided they want to use last year's processor, which making the transition to that this year means that the 9A and the 10A have the same processor, which is usually what sets any phone apart these days. Like a lot of times, the newer version, the only difference is the processor. So, it's got, the screen technically can get a little bit brighter. It charges a little bit faster. It wirelessly charges a tiny bit faster. But other than that, it seems to be the same phone. So if you have a 9A or see a 9A on sale, I would recommend getting that instead. What do you think, Warren?
Yeah, so technically, I think you're correct, because in reality, I think it's Google's fault, as I put it, because they kept giving us the same chip. They didn't do what Samsung does. Samsung never gives you Qualcomm Elite chip, in the A series that comes with the S series. But we were conditioned with Google, even though earlier on with the Pixel 3 and 3A and the 4A series, the truth was that those had a different chip. And with the Pixel 6 series upward, then we realized that we were getting the same chip for the A series. And so everyone was expecting that. And so Google decided not to do that. And yet it's still a flagship chip, of course, of last year's device. But as you indicated, frankly, this is how I see it. I see it as getting a Pixel 9a with a few upgrades that you mentioned, and I'm going to mention some of those here. I think maybe there are 5 or 6 differences, minor differences. But then if you get it, basically you're getting Pixel 9a with those little upgrades and an extra year, because the Pixel 9a technically now has, maybe 6 years left. And if you get the 10a, then of course you have another year. You're adding another year to your Pixel 9a. But here are some of those differences, including those that John mentioned. So you got that Pixel 10a comes with Bluetooth 6.0 to the 5.3 of the Pixel 9a. Secondly, the Pixel 10a has support for that 30 watt wired charging to the 23 watt wired charging of the 9a. And of course, when we talk about wireless charging, I know John likes that. I don't give a right about that. And the Pixel 10a has that 10 watt to the 7.5 on the 9a. And talking about the glass, because, for example, for me, though, I always put my phones in a case and a tempered glass. The front glass of the Pixel 10 is the Gorilla Glass 7i to the Gorilla Glass 3 of the Pixel 9a. And then you got that camera module there on the back of the Pixel 10, which is narrower and a bit taller than that you find on the Pixel 9a. And then last but not least, we got the Pixel 10a. It's a little heavier. Karen doesn't like heavy phones. This one's a little bit heavier. at 185.9 grams to the 183 grams of the Pixel 9a. And frankly, I think those are just the differences. And like John says, a little bit of the brightness, a little bit more on the Pixel 10, but everything else, you're getting the same thing. So if I were someone that has a Pixel 9a, I'll trade that in and add another year to my Pixel 9a with a few minor upgrades. And so, I don't know.
I don't know if you mentioned it or not, because to be honest, I was zoning out a little bit. But this also has the SOS feature. Did you mention that? Like the where you can.
Yeah,
like,
that's
stream
right.
SMS,
Yeah, I don't think the
even if you don't
9a
have a
has
cell
that.
signal,
Yeah, the
using
9a
satellite. Yeah.
does not have that. And so that's another thing that one has. And so the truth is that everything else is the same. For some reason, according to what I was reading, though, the 10A feels a little bit like a little bit shorter for some reason, even though they're 6.3, but side by side or whatever, seems like the 10A is a little bit shorter or something. It's just such an oddity. But it does have Ed's favorite color, the peony, which I call the peony. Ed, I know you like that color, right?
Yeah, the peony's pink. They call it berry on this, I think. So berry is the new
Which
color
one has the
they have.
peony? The 9A, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so berry is the new color on the 10A, I think. So that's another thing. You can get a different color if you want to that wasn't available with the 9A. And what are the software years on these again? I can't remember on the A series. Is it 7 again, or do they
They
not?
both have 7. Yeah.
Yeah. So you pay your money and you take your choice when they're both released. I suppose it depends how cheap the 9A is once the 10A is released, isn't it? So if it's significantly less, then
If it goes down, it was just on sale for
yeah.
like 150 off. So hopefully it goes down to that permanently. But yeah, because so I did the math, or I shouldn't say I did the math. It wasn't hard math, but I went to the page and acted like I was going to trade in my 9A, and they said they'd give 275, so you'd still be paying 225, or did they say 225? Well, you'll be paying around 250
You
to
pay
upgrade.
225.
The way Google does it, you have to make the purchase and you have to pay tax on the full purchase, and then they will give you a partial refund of, whatever they said you'd get traded for. So you've already paid tax on $500. So let's just say at least 250 you'll be paying to upgrade to this. But we should mention, if I don't recommend upgrading, but if you are thinking about it, if you do, if you pre-order, there's a few deals you can get if you pre-order. Amazon's doing it, Best Buy and Google Store, where you can get a $100 gift card with it. So if you get from the Google Store, you'll get a $100 gift card, or you can choose to get the Pixel Buds A for free instead. Same with Amazon. You can get an Amazon gift card if you pre-order through Amazon, and same with Best Buy. At least this is in the US.
Another good thing that Google has done this year is that they've taken a little thing from the Samsung playbook. In other words, if you do a trade-in, it will be applied upon checkout. So you are not waiting until they get the device. If your device is not as you indicated, then they'll deduct it later and let you know your device wasn't as what you said. So at least they're doing something
So I
different.
take back what I said about paying the tax.
Yeah.
If that's the case,
So-
then you won't have to pay tax on.
Yeah.
500
So
purchase.
it's a really good thing, and I'm glad they took that from Samsung, because Samsung was the only one doing that, and I hope that this is a trend that Google continues to do. But frankly, if I have a Pixel 9a, I will trade it in and add another year to my Pixel 9a in the way of getting the Pixel 10a. But it's totally up to you guys. But that would be my recommendation. You have a few of those little upgrades that we've mentioned, and then you have an extra year of software support.
So you might possibly have preempted the question I was going to ask, but I'm interested in John's views. Let's say you don't have a recent A series phone, and we're post 5th of March, it's out. How much, John, do you think the 9A has to come down to make that a preferable purchase to the 10A, or would you say just buy the 10A if you don't actually have the 9A and don't worry about that one?
I mean, it's different for everybody, right? And we've already pointed out the differences, but for me, if I could save $100, I would do it, because I mean, unless you're really planning on keeping this thing for 7 years, and ask yourself that honestly, like there are people that keep phones for 7 years, but and if that's you, then yeah, just get the newer one and keep it for 7 years.
Interesting.
Did you mention that the new Pixel is made up of recycled materials? Not all of it, but I think 30% is made up of recycled. So it's eco-friendly, which is good. Did you mention that?
Yeah, because those materials are actually from Pixel 9As.
No.
I'm just kidding.
I love it, John.
Yeah.
I like it, actually.
I love it.
We should
Oh,
give them.
brother.
We should give them credit. Actually,
Yeah, well, they always do, recycled aluminum, and of course,
No,
both
this-
of them have
this
the plastic,
time-
plastic
this
bag.
time it is. This time it is, or the material, the percentage of the material is more, I think, because they tried to make something out of it, like something good that they are doing. I think
Yeah.
they tried to do that just to tell people, okay, it's not really the 9A, it's something better. So yeah, but actually, if you throw your 9A and you bring a 10A, you will be actually polluting the environment. So you will be losing the thing that you are trying to do, which is to help and protect the environment, because actually the 9A should just work fine. And there are already phones that are already manufactured and they are in the markets. So I don't know what's the point about it, but maybe after 2 years or such, if the 10A is still in the market, maybe it could be something for people to think about. But currently, I don't think that there is anything that could make someone who has the 9A get the 10A, because you already said it, they are similar, and you already lost 1 year of the software support. You already have 5 years, so it's 5 or 6 years. So that's plenty, and there's no need to worry. So yeah, I don't think that they did something that deserves saying good, you did something well.
Yeah, they backed themselves into a corner, I think, because like Warren said, they didn't have to include the latest processor every time, and now that they have done it, there's going to be this awkward year where they're making the transition, and they can't just take a year off, because people, the people that are going to buy a phone this year, if there was no new Pixel A, they might consider like getting a Galaxy A series phone or something instead, because there is no new Pixel A series. But if they see that there's a 10A, they're like, oh yeah, that's the new one, I'll get that one. So they kind of had to release one, but yeah, it's an awkward year for them for sure.
Yeah, well, to say something, which is, I should say that Google is the one who did that before, is the one who used the same processor in the A series. However, if we look at other manufacturers, this is not the case. So with Samsung in the A series, you get different processors. You get the mid-ranger. So you can never say that the Exynos, which is in the A55, is similar to what you get in S25 or S24 even. S24 is better. So that's the norm. But Google is the one who said, okay, we are going to give you the same processor in the A phone, which is retailed for less. You can purchase it for less, and it's similar in software features and in hardware features, at least the processor. So because Google started that, people are already expecting that to continue, and they just forget
set
that
the bar
other
too high.
manufacturers don't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But other manufacturers don't do that at all.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying they should have continued with what they did with the 3A and 4A series. And then, of course, we noticed, though, if you've been following them with the Pixel 5, 765, and then the Pixel 5a 765 5 whatever G whatever something was a little bit different, even though they had the same 765, but there was a little bit something extra different on the 5a. So Google has been inconsistent, or then that consistency you mentioned as from the 6a on, and now going backwards, you're kind of letting the people down. But maybe they should from now on forward just keep using yesterday's chip in the A series, and that will be something that differentiates the A series from the flagship ones.
Or maybe you'll find that in the Pixel 11, it'll have the Pixel 10 chip.
Oh,
we'll be locked into the same year chip.
That'll blow our whole theory out of the water.
Nah.
That'd be really funny, though. I know they won't do. Imagine.
I think Google decided it probably. I'm sure they have the numbers to back it up, but maybe they think this is like cannibalizing their flagship sales, having the same chip in this phone for half a year before the new phone comes out. So, yeah, they've decided to. But like Karine said, they were just so generous. Nobody else was this generous, and because of that, they're just backing it off a little bit. It's still. This is more, I guess this is going to be more like the approach of like, we mentioned it last year when we were talking about like the flagship killers. Karine brought it up. Going forward, I guess they're going to be more like, how the OnePlus, the R version is like last year's chip. So I think that's going to be their approach going forward. It's just this year this is not the time to upgrade it, in my opinion, if you already have a 9A.
Because let's be honest, guys, if you're buying a flagship for over $1,000 or $1,000, and here comes the mid-ranger, and I'm using these Pixel phones, the A series now, and you're getting that for less than half the price of that flagship, and they're using the same chip, and I'm not gonna care as to whether it has 3 cameras or not, or whatever, most especially if the chip is the same thing, because the powerhouse lies with the chip, whether we like it or not. And so if they have the same, and I think like you said, John, that could be the reason why, Google may be changing their mind, because if you're doing this, you're cannibalizing your own flagship, and someone will say, why would I want to pay $1,000 or $1,200 or $1,500 when I could get the same phone sporting the same chip for less than $500? And most especially when you can get it on sale or maybe $300 plus. You see where I'm going with this? The whole setup was not as good as intended. I mean, it was good, but then I think it hurts them in the process.